Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? It's your boy Isaac,
And this is your boy Bryce.
and we are brothers on tennis. And folks, we've come to the end of the last Grand Slam of 2024, the US Open. Bryce, I mean, I tell you, man, crazy that this year has flown by like it has. But to end, our Grand Slams for 2024 US Open, it's kind of crazy. But then, we got some champions out of it, both first timers. Pretty insane. What are your thoughts on 2024 US Open, bro?
There were so many stories going on with this US Open. We're going to talk about how the Peoples did.
Yep.
There was some good Peoples results. We had some good American results.
Yes.
We had some major upsets. We had some new commentating situations going on. Mm-hmm. We had the whole blackout of coverage, because the mouse and ESPN couldn't get it going.
Yeah.
With DirecTV. There's just a lot of different things. I mean, much that was going on at this year's U.S. Open to talk about. So,
absolutely, yes. Yeah. Where do we want to start at, brother? Where do you want to start? We've got, of course, all the doubles action. Mm-hmm. We've got the singles action. Where's a good place to get going?
Well, let's start with the mixed doubles, and
yes.
There's we hit a couple of those stories in the mixed doubles, and I know where everybody thinks we're about to go, but we're going to start with another team that made it to the semifinals, and you've heard us talk about this young lady, Tyra Grant, African-American female who has been really killing it in the juniors.
Yes.
She's been doing really well in singles, and she's been winning the majors in the doubles. Well, to our surprise, she paired up with, is it Kovacevic?
Kovacevic. Yep.
Cevic. She paired up with him. They made it to the semifinals. Not only did they make it to the semifinals, did they take out? Which one took out the defending champions? Was it them or Taylor?
No, I think that might have been
Young.
Yeah, I think Taylor and Young. Yeah, the Helivara and yeah.
Gotcha. But for her as a junior,
yep,
this early in her, I mean, because I don't even think she's not professional. I don't think we're gonna have to talk to the family because we chat with the daddy, but I don't know that she's even professional yet. Maybe she turned professional to get this check. That came, you know how we do, to get that semifinal mixed doubles check. But this is a great result for her.
Absolutely. To still be in the juniors, she plays with that Jokic, young lady from the USA. They play doubles together on the juniors side. In fact, I'm pretty sure that there was some type of a Netflix like documentary or something.
Oh.
Tyra wasn't in it, but Jokic was, I believe.
Okay.
But anyway, long and the short of it is they play doubles in the juniors together. So for her to be able to partner up with Kovacevic and to be able to make a semi of a Grand Slam is an incredible result. Speaks volumes for her potential and what she can potentially do as she continues to mature and get out on the professional circuit. So just great results. It was fantastic to see her, to show up and show out the way that she did in that regard.
And I love it whenever a new player shows that they're going to have the potential to be a factor in multiple events at these tournaments, and singles and doubles. I mean, she's clearly a very good doubles player.
Yes.
And so wanted to start off by giving her and her team a huge shout out. And we hope that this is nothing but additional motivation for her as she's making her way onto the professional circuit. So shout out to Miss Tyra and to her partner, Kovacevic, as well.
Good American duo.
Yes. But now we will switch to the story that you thought we was going to, which, Isaac, I'm going to just be real honest. This broke my heart. Yeah. I wanted this so bad for Donald Young. I mean, for those of you who are not familiar with the Donald Young story, I will give you the highlight of it. This is an African-American male, left-handed, just with an insane amount of natural talent and ability, was lauded as a very young teenager by people like McEnroe, that he was the next, big thing. We won't get into the details, but for a variety of reasons, his career just never really took off the way that everybody thought. And so props to the U.S. Open and the USTA for giving him and Taylor Townsend a wild card into the mixed doubles. So this was his last professional match, yes. And coming in as a wild card, they made it all the way to the finals. And played an amazing final. And just came up short. But I was thinking this was going to be the fairy tale end of Donald Young's professional career. Making it to the finals is nothing to hang his head over, because he made it to a doubles final back in the day at the French, right? When he lost to Ryan Harrison. And yeah, remember that saltiness. But Isaac, what did you think? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, run? First and foremost, Bryce, the fact that, like you said, Donald Young has been, a staple of U.S. tennis for a very, very long time. And he's, again, like you said, maybe didn't reach the heights that many expected him to reach, but still had a wonderful career, insanely talented, like you said. I just think it was a great way for them to go out, him playing with Taylor Townsend, someone that he's grown up, kind of mentoring, if you will, and they just have a lot of close ties there. So for them to be able to play together in his last event was special. And honestly, Bryce, it was a great match. Technically, I was kind of upset because I just didn't feel like they were using the right tactics. But that's just because Balasori, I think of the Italian.
Good pronunciation.
Yes, I love that dude. I love his name, actually. And Sarah Aryna. They are a really, like I said, they won. So they're a great mixed doubles team. But Babasori is someone that is very, he was on the net. He was just literally on the net. And I was just a little disappointed that they weren't using a little bit more of the chip lob, especially on Sarah Aryna's serve, because it's not like she's blowing you off the court with that serve.
Right.
So they very much should have been getting it past or over him because he was on top of the net. And what was happening was he was just picking off balls left and right because they were coming in so slow that basically when they would wind up, he would see where they were going and then he'd poach that way, knock off a quick volley. And the fact that they weren't breaking her on the regular was a little bit disappointing, but that's the whole technical piece of it. Irregardless, they played a phenomenal match phenomenal tournament to get to the title. I thought Taylor made a great speech in regards to just the fact that folks like, Donald and herself and how, they are representation. They simply are. And for them to be in that spot should be encouragement to others that look like them. I just felt like that was just so spot on her part. And again, for him to be able to lead the game, hey, you may not have been a Grand Slam champion, but you made a Grand Slam final. And it's not like he's, not going anywhere. He's going to be on the pickleball circuit doing his pickleball thing. So, kudos to him for leaving the game in the way that he did. I feel like it was maybe not, he didn't get the title, but the way that he did it, yeah, it was definitely commendable.
Right. And, and we met Donald a few years back at World Team Tennis in Indian Wells. And so Donald Young, as nice of a gentleman as you could ever meet. We interviewed him briefly there. And so we're going to try to get him on this show now that he's retired for you guys to talk to him and to talk about the whole experience and see how that went for him. But shout out to Aryna and Babasori for claiming like Prego is in that.
That's like good.
You know, he's they are the champions of the 2024 mixed doubles event, and shout out. Look, let me tell you something. Let me just say this one thing before we get off of this. If y'all ain't been paying attention on both the men's, the women's, the doubles, the Italians ain't nobody to mess with.
No,
the Italians are doing a daggone thing. So
yes, they are.
shout out to Italy. Wow.
Exactly.
So let's keep it moving, and let's go to the women's doubles. And in that final, we had a couple of veterans in Milanovic and Zhang.
Yes.
Who they definitely have done their thing. But then we had Kitchnok and Ostapenko, who they are a very good team. I don't know that anybody saw them as potentially winning a title, but is this Ostapenko's first? Because we know she has Roland Garros as a singles title, but I think this is maybe her first Grand Slam doubles title.
I think you might be right. I don't know that for 100%, but I'm pretty certain that was her first major doubles title. And they played well, Bryce. It was really, really a good match. You know, I think it was one of those things where nerves kind of came through at the end, because I don't know if you know this, but Zhang, great player. I mean, we've seen her over the years, but literally over the past year, I don't think that she's won like a singles match. I think she's like on some really ridiculous like 20 match losing streak in singles.
I think she set a record.
Yeah. and honestly, Bryce, I feel like that showed up because I feel like her play definitely dropped off in that last set. I feel like, you know, and it's not that Kitchenov and Ostapenko didn't play, good tennis there, but there were shots that Zhang had and just, she just fumbled the ball basically. But Bryce, just really quickly to talk about their road. I mean, the fact that they first and foremost took out, my girl, Pop That Collar, Shea, Shea Sue and Mertens, took them out. Took out Melikar and Martinez, took out Sinyakova and Townsend to then make it to the final. They took out some beasts. This feels very much like that whole Raducanu / Fernandez run, where Fernandez took out all the heavy hitters, and then she got to the final, which just didn't have enough to get over the finish line. I feel like that was the case with Zhang and oh gosh, I'm
Milanovic.
Thank you, Milanovic. So, they played a good match, but I just think that in the end, Kitchenov and Ostapenko were just kind of a little bit too much. And it was a really good final. Again, one of those times where it's like, the ones that beat the better players didn't actually hold up the title at the end of the day. But yet and still, great run for those ladies, and they should be proud of themselves.
Well, yeah, and I wish I could have seen it, which is, I just want to, as we're interjecting some of these other stories that happened during the U.S. Open, I know so many people were impacted by not being able to watch the matches because of this dispute with, Disney and DirecTV and, which and Disney owns ESPN, so you couldn't, if you were viewing ESPN through your relationship with DirecTV, you couldn't see it. Granted, there were some other options that you could go and do some free trials with some other networks and whatever, but I'm starting to feel like this is happening too much.
Exactly.
Even when there's not a dispute, we've got to try to figure out what app or what channel is covering it, and then we got to do the whole pay for it for 30 days and remember to cancel it afterwards, and all this kind of stuff. And we heard last week that the Tennis Channel had basically fired the Ken Solomon, who was the CEO, and word is they're trying to package the Tennis Channel to sell it to someone. And so I'm not sure what's all going on there, but what I hope as a tennis fan is that somebody is able to reel all of this in, right?
Yeah.
We talk about tennis having a popularity problem, not being as popular as some other sports. Well, this is the primary reason why. When we make it difficult for you to see the biggest tournaments and events of the year, I mean, we're invested. We are deep tennis fans, so we do all that kind of stuff, and we duct tape solutions together so that we can watch the tennis. If you're not really into tennis like that, you're not doing all that.
Exactly.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on?
Well, I mean, it's like you said, but I think it's the state of where we're at right now, just with all of these different, streaming apps, and you've got all these different, cable networks and all these different contracts and things. I just feel like it needs to go back to being a bit more simplified, you know. I, whether or not that'll happen in the near term is it probably won't. But yeah, there's just too many. There's too many out there. There's too much out there. With your cable services, with your streaming services, and this person may not like what this person's doing, and and everybody's greedy and all about the money, so they don't really care about the customer anymore. And that's the one thing that's really disappointing with all of this, is that I found that there just doesn't seem to be any more customer, loyalty. You know what I mean? Just, because if you show loyalty to again, a DirecTV or a Spectrum or whomever, it sometimes doesn't feel like you get that back. It's just like, oh, well, you just got to deal with it. And it kind of, it just sucks in that regard. So I'm like you, I don't know that I see it improving anytime in the near future. But something needs to be done, because again, you're right, Bryce, this happens way too often. I know it happened to me a few years back, same thing, where right in Labor Day, it's like right in the middle of a Grand Slam, and you're just like, seriously? So now I got to go out to a bar, basically, just to watch the tennis matches I want to watch. It's just, and you don't even know, because some of them bars may be on that one that got, where the service is canceled. So it's frustrating.
So, all right, that was a little break there for one of these little side stories. So let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
Let's go into the men's doubles.
Yeah.
And Isaac, walk us through that one.
Yeah. So funny enough, now you talk about it. I didn't get to see this match, but I believe it was Kravitz and Putz against Purcell and Thompson. So I didn't get to see any of the actual tennis itself. But what I will say is that Purcell and Jordan Thompson have been playing doubles a lot over the last year or so, and I think they got kind of hyped, because they were like, okay, hold up. So we got Kubler and Riki Hijikata, who done won a Grand Slam, and then here come Nick Kyrgios and Kokkinakis done won the Australian Open. It's like, well, okay, what about
Ebden wins it all? That's
and Ebden wins everything, exactly, because he's just the doubles man. And so they were like, well, shoot, let's throw our Aussie cap in the pool and see what we can do. And they've been increasingly, getting better results. And hey, they got up into this U.S. Open, and it was their time. They played a great tournament. They were able to get through some really great matches, got to the final. And again, against Kravitz and Putz, and that's a tough doubles team. I mean, they are very established. So for them to be able to take the win there is kudos to them, man. I like I said, unfortunately, I did not get to see that particular match. But I did see some of the highlights, and it looked like it was a very competitive match, and they just played well. I think, like I said, I've seen Jordan Thompson's game on the singles court, of course, and he's just he does all things very well. He's very athletic. He, has a really nice, solid game all around. So again, and even with Purcell, he's, like I said, he's shocked but a couple of top 10 players in the singles court. So he's got game when he needs to have game. And so I think they were just able to put it together on the fortnight. So, kudos to the Australians for getting it done at the US Open.
For getting it done. There you go. So with that, we have covered the doubles results from the tournament. Let's take a short break here, and we will come back and we'll jump into the singles. And we are back. and it is time to move to the singles draws. Isaac, do you have a preference of which one we go to first?
I don't. So we'll go with ladies first. How about that?
Okay, ladies first.
Yeah.
I was about to say, in both of them, we had an American in the finals. So
yes.
And let's start off with that, right? So there's been so much talk about, particularly on the men's side, there hadn't been a man in a Grand Slam final, a man to win a singles Grand Slam since Andy Roddick. And I'm gonna tell, and I may have made this comment on the show before, so I apologize if I'm repeating, but I think it bears hearing again. But when Andy Roddick was a player, I was not the biggest fan. I mean, it was kind of hard to be if you were on Federer's train, right? So, and he just kind of represented that kind of brash, I'm thinking Jimmy Connors, McEnroe, that whole American over the top persona, which feels very whatever. But after he retired and became a commentator, I became a much bigger fan of Andy. I love his commentating. I love his perspective on things. I love how kind of self-deprecating he is and realistic he is about things. And so I'm a much bigger fan of his. And I've also been able to look back at this drought now that we've had with American men and say, you know what? That Andy Roddick really did a little something when he was playing, because not only was he the last American to really win anything of note, but he did this while the big three was out there, So, so Andy, if you're listening, mea culpa for, me not giving you the respect that maybe you deserved when you were a player, but I definitely respect you now. And I really like the beef you have with the Curios. So, that being said,
I love it.
The women, we've had a little more success. Obviously, the Williams sisters, Lindsay Davenport, Jennifer Capriati. I mean, we've had American women. I guess even Sloane came through and did a little something. So we've had some American women do some things, and obviously Coco Gauff just last year at the U.S. Open. But this was a first for Jessica Pegula making it, because the whole thing was, could Jessie ever get out of the quarterfinals?
Right. Yep.
And finally she did.
Yeah, she got through, and won a really solid match, got through Iga, which, I mean, again, Jess is one of those players that if you're talking about a hard court, and it's a fast hard court, Iga's going to have problems with Jess ongoing because of the fact that she hits so flat, and Iga has to get that wind up. She has to be able to be planted and really be able to get behind that forehand. And when you can't do that, you're going to get errors. And that's what we saw in that matchup with her and Jess, is that she just kept lighting up her forehand, and she just didn't have enough time to be able to do the things that she's typically able to do a la on clay that, we know she can do. So for me, like I said, that outcome, it honestly wasn't that surprising to me, because I was just like, if there's going to be someone to do it, to take out Iga, it'll be a Jess, because again, her game is just so flat and so aggressive in that regard. So a great win against Iga, and then had to really battle in the semifinal against Muchova. You know Muchova, that's my girl. Muchova to me, y'all, is Barty 2.0. She's got all the shots. Again, the same type of game, two-handed backhand, but has a beautiful slice, comes to the net. Volleys are just crisp and just sweet. I love Muchova, and I love her game. She came out, played some great tennis the first set and a half, just kind of got, settled in and was like, okay, I think I know what I'm dealing with. And I honestly think the American crowd really helped her out, because she scratched her way back into that match and really, took that second set and then stole that third set. just played a great match against Muhova and to make it to her first Grand Slam final. So I got to give mad kudos to Jess Pegula for making that final, because again, it very much looked like Muhova was going to get there, Bryce. So, yeah.
And shout out to Muhova, because going into this tournament, we didn't even know that she was healthy like that.
Right.
To be playing. So to just kind of step back in the swing of things and be like, yo, here, I'm back in the semifinals.
Mm-hmm. And do not get it twisted, Bryce. Muhova, in my eyes, has always been a top 5 player. If she can keep herself healthy, she will very much be back in the top 5 next year, guaranteed. But again, it's all about the health. She had a wrist, she had to have wrist surgery, and that's what she was coming back from. So, and you've heard a lot of the commentators say, when you get that wrist surgery, some people just don't make it back, a la Del Potro. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So the fact that she's able to come back and play at this level, her like 6th tournament back, and she makes the semis of a Grand Slam at the U.S. Open. Yeah, Muhova is not to be played with. If she stays healthy, watch out for that young lady. I do feel like if she can keep her health right, she will own multiple Grand Slams, in my opinion. Right. I really believe that, because again, she's Barty-esque. She's got all that variety. She's just a phenomenal player. But anyway, sorry to be gloating over.
Well deserved for her.
Yeah.
And as we transition to the bottom half of the draw, we had another American that made the semifinals. Navarro was kind of taking out all your favorites, Coco Gauff and Mendoza, and she was like, "Who else wants some?"
Yeah, who else wants some? Yeah, but then Big Sab got up in there, was like, "Look, sis, I already had to deal with one of y'all Americans last year, and I wasn't happy about it. Had to crack some rackets. I'm not trying to deal with you. I'm not trying to deal with you." And that's exactly what happened in that semifinal, Bryce. Sabalenka got out there and she went to work, Bryce. And I guess that's to say, that's why it was not a surprise to me to see her and Jess in the final, because they by far were the 2 best hardcourt players over this summer. By far,
Well, and let me ask you this though: were you not surprised at how easily Sabalenka took out Queenie? Because Queenie had been clowning this summer, gold medal and everything.
She stole on Queenie. She was like, "Queenie, listen, we saw each other in Australia, and I dealt with you there. I'm gonna deal with you right now." What I will say though, Bryce, is that remember, Queenie is coming off, like you said, that gold medal. So she's been doing all that traveling. She was on a different surface. Sabalenka did not play the Olympics, so she went directly to the hard courts. I honestly feel like that benefited both her and Jess Pegula, because Jess did play the Olympics, though.
Yeah, she just lost.
That's right.
Early.
That's right. She just came and she was just like, I feel great, so I'm just about to light everybody up on these hard courts. But Sabalenka, to me, took the right approach and was like, I'm gonna skip the Olympics. I'm just gonna focus on my hardcourt game. And she did just that, man. She took Cincinnati and straight sets. I don't think she lost a set. And then she got up here in the U.S. Open and was like, we're not doing this Coco repeat. She's like, I've been to the semis way too many times here. I'm tired of this. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of you. And she was like, I'm about to get it done. And that's exactly what she did, Bryce. She stole on Queenie. She got Navarro, who actually played a really good match against Sabalenka. I feel like, she was competing very, very well, for it to be her first semifinal. But Sabalenka just had too much game. And the same thing happened in the final against Jess Pegula. She just had too much game. There was a moment in the second set where Jess was fighting her way back, and she had an opportunity to really, get this into a third set. But you have to give kudos to Sabalenka, because it's not like Jess did anything wrong. Sabalenka just stepped up at the right time and was like, "Nah, sis, we not dragging this out. I'm not doing that with you. We're not doing this Coco thing again. I won the first set. I'm about to win the second set, and we're about to call it a day." And that's what she did, bro. And I was so very happy for her, man. I mean, mind you, I love, Jess Pegula. Was definitely hoping that she could get over the hurdle and get herself a Grand Slam. But in truth, I really am very happy for Sabalenka, because again, she lost it. That one last year to Coco was devastating for her.
Right. It was.
So for her to be able to get back and lift that title, I was very happy for her.
And so that makes Sabalenka the only player to win 2 majors this year. But you know what's interesting? The way that the rankings work, Iga was able to extend her lead as number one still.
Exactly.
So, Iga may not have walked away with the hardware, but she extended her lead in number one. So for any person that's like saying like, oh, Iga, she's not that chick anymore or whatever, it's like,
yes, she is.
She very much still is.
Very much still is. And mind you, Bryce, this is a battle. This is a 1-2 battle right now this year. So there's no one else that really can contend with those two. Sabalenka is behind Iga. I think it was like about 400 points or something like that, because I think Iga has like 8,200 and Sabalenka has 7,800. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what transpires over this fall season and what happens at the year-ending championships. Because if both of them stay healthy, I expect for it to be a really, really good competition to see who's going to end the year number one. Because Sabalenka wants that. She's been number one, but she wants that year-ending number one.
And remember, last year Iga came back and snatched it from her at the end.
Snatched it like a wig.
Yeah.
She said, "Girl, you're not ready for this number one. This is mine." And so, she snatched it.
Right. So Sabalenka's scalp is still fresh. So she she's ready to get that wig fitted back on.
Right. It's gonna be a great battle, Bryce. That to me is one of
them.
It's going to be the things I'm actually looking forward to for the remainder of the season, is to see who is going to show up and show out and take that year-ending number one.
So like I said, in this year's women's draw, you had momentous stuff for Iga, for Muchova, for Sabalenka, for Pegula, for Navarro, and let's not forget, our girl Paolini still, once again, I mean, no shame in losing 3-3 to Muchova on a hard court. I think Paolini is really showing people, hey, look, them Grand Slam finals earlier this year were not a fluke. I'm here to stay. You know how us Italians are doing right now, So this was a very, very good tournament, for the women for sure.
I absolutely agree, Bryce. It was a fantastic U.S. Open all around. I loved it. Loved all of it. Hoping again that we can get Coco, get her back on track again. I know there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and hopefully that's what the focus will be for the rest of this season, so she can really come out in 2025 and reestablish her dominance, if you will.
All right. Well, we're left with the men's singles draw.
Yes,
but
sir.
Before we get there, let's bring in another one of these hot topics. So, in the commentating booth this year, we had the addition of Nick Kyrgios. Yes. And he was all over the place. He was doing on-court interviews. He was up doing matches. He was on the internet and social media, and he was all over the place. And the one thing, look, there's a part of me sometimes that gets a little exhausted with Nick Kyrgios. He can be a little exhausting. But the thing this man will not do is he will not back down from a sparring session. And people were trying to call him out on social media, like either the way he was dressed and he was, I do what I want to do, or why did they put, him on commentating? He's had these domestic abuse cases, and he'd be like, they put me on because I'm the only one who out here who beat people in the big three, and I got game, and he let people know, right? It's like, I'm the interesting thing on and off the court in tennis, right? But I think the most interesting stance he took during this tournament was the stance he took on Jannik Sinner and the failed to drug test that the governing organization gave Sinner a pass on because he got something passed on to him through massaging him from a cut on, which basically Kyrgios came out and was like, ooh, this is a real big stretch y'all trying to make us. believe, he's had 2 failed tests or 2 failed tests.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how it happened, and so we know that there was, and that's what created some of the beef between Kyrgios and Roddick online,
Yeah.
which I like. And I guess of course, it naturally made Jannik Sinner feel, some sort of way. But Jannik just need to sit down because, it's not really about Jannik. It's about the consistency and the transparency of the drug testing.
Right.
And this whole thing could have played out differently. And now you got people complaining, saying, because I love what Kyrgios said. He was like, "Hey, look, if this is not a big deal, why did you have to give up your points and your money at Indian Wells?
Mm-hmm.
They don't just do that willy-nilly, right?
Right.
You had to give up your points and your money from Indian Wells. So it's somewhat serious. And now you got people talking about, well, should his U.S. Open victory even be valid? Because he shouldn't even be allowed to play right now. Who else was able to play having failed 2 drug tests? So I don't know. What did you think about Nick Kyrgios as a commentator and what he brought to, your tennis viewing experience?
Well, I mean, for me, Nick, of course, is just a very, unique individual. So, I think that he definitely tamed himself down when he was on camera because, it's ESPN. He's not going to, he's not going to be the normal, troll Nick like you see online when he's in front of the camera. So I think that what he did and some of the analysis that he did was really good. I didn't have an issue with anything that he said there. But I do agree with you with the sentiment that it can be a little exhaustive with Nick and all of the just everything that he brings. But like I said, I still like the guy. I think he's funny in that regard. But I do differ from him because he did say something to the effect that, if I see Jannik in the locker room, yeah, it's going to be different, or I'm going to be different. I don't know if he spoke to him different, or I didn't agree with that because to me, it goes against what you just said, which is this is really not about Jannik. Jannik, in my opinion, didn't do anything wrong. He followed the process. They gave him an out and said, no, you good. So that's it. I mean, what more can you do? It's like you said, it's about the process. It's about the consistency that's the issue. So that's where I had my major issue with Nick was that they asked him, they were like, well, do you think differently of Jannik? And he was like, absolutely. He was like, yeah, if I see him in the locker room, I'm gonna feel a certain way and blah, blah, blah. And I was just kind of like, that I don't agree with. I don't. And interestingly enough, you saw that he did certain on-court interviews. You never saw him do anything with Jannik Sinner. ESPN at least was smart in that regard after he made that comment. And so what I will say is like, I agree with him to the point of, and again, with everybody, I think everybody is saying the same thing, is that the process is not consistent. And that's a problem. You can't just give somebody else a pass and you're not doing that with other people. A la, like I said, we got a boy Emer who didn't even take a test and they just completely, banned him, 2-year suspension. So it's ridiculous. And we know other more popular players in the past who have missed drug tests and have not been penalized. We won't call them out. But again, it's consistency. There needs to be that level of consistency. So getting back to the Nick Kyrgios thing, like I said, I don't have an issue with Nick. I think he did a great job as far as his commentary, as far as what he brought, his insights. Because again, he is a person who's played with a lot of these guys. So I thought it was good insight that he brought. Even with the McEnroe brothers, I thought that was insane because they can go off on that time, especially Johnny. But Nick did a good job in that regard. But that's the only space where I didn't agree with him was him feeling as though he would treat Jannik differently because of this. And I was just like, no, I don't agree with that. Because Jannik did nothing wrong. He followed the rules. They gave him a pass. And that's it. If you allowed to play, then you
Right.
do what you're allowed to do, and that's all he did. So to me, you can't fault him for that.
Right. And what's very interesting is you're starting to get other people that I don't consider as being people part of the tennis world, like making comments like, who's that one crazy news guy, that Pierce Morgan
Oh
guy?
yeah.
He came out, he took a post where they were congratulating Sinner for winning the US Open, and he puts on top of that, after he failed 2 drug tests.
Yeah, and that's coming from someone like you said. They don't know tennis. They just trying to they're just trying to get views and all of that, clickbait type stuff. And it's silly in my opinion. And I don't feel like Sinner deserves it. And at the same time, it also goes to just kudos to him for all of that's going on, and for him to still be able to make the US Open final and to win.
Yes. And so let's talk about these draws, because for the men, we had some major upsets fairly early in the tournament. I mean, you're without an Alcaraz, you're without a Djokovic. These are probably 2 of the highest picked players to win the tournament. But in the top half of the draw, I had picked Medvedev to actually take out Sinner. And Sinner was like, oh.
Yeah, Sinner was like, you know what, you did get me the last time we played, but guess what? I'm in much better shape, and I know how to deal with you, and that's exactly what he did. It was a great match, Bryce. It was really a great match. Again, I thought that Medvedev was going to have kind of the tricks and the wherewithal to be able to get through him. But Sinner is showing that he's like, nah, man, unless it's Carlos Alcaraz, I'm not trying to play with you. I can get in and out of these corners, and I can play big ball, and he did just that. He played a really, really great game against Medvedev and got through that match. And then, of course, faced Jack Draper in the semifinal, which it was a surprise because I think both you and I picked de Minaur to be able to get through that match. But I have to say, Jack Draper played some great tennis this fortnight. He definitely established himself as one of those up and comers that if he can just get his fitness right and a few other little things, he will actually be competing for Grand Slams. I really feel as though he's got the game. He's a big kid. I didn't actually realize Jack Draper's like 6'4", and he's lefty. He got a big game. Big game, big kid. So I was really, I was like, dang, okay, he took out de Minaur. But in truth, that match that he played against Sinner, Bryce, he just from after the first set on, because it was kind of a hot, humid day, you can tell that Draper is kind of like where Carlos Alcaraz was, where his fitness, he looks very, very fit and everything, but his fitness ain't right because he was just gasping for air. Unfortunately, he, had a little bit of the vomit going on the court. And that just speaks to the fact that your fitness is not, you got your balance and your chemicals and how you hydrate and everything, that all needs to be worked out with him, because after the first set, he looked exhausted. He literally looked like he was spent after the first set. And Sinner was just like, he's fresh as a daisy. He's like, I'm good. So no, not a surprise that he was able to take out Draper and make it to that final.
Well, and then we go to the bottom half of the draw, which we saw 2 Americans in the quarterfinals that we were hoping were going to meet in the semifinals. And I just, Isaac, I just had to laugh because I know in our mid-fortnight show when we were talking about the Tiafoe Dimitrov match, and I was like, we know what's going to happen. Dimitrov, either knee gonna start hurting or his back gonna start hurting or something. He's not gonna make it through that match, and I'll be that gone.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, he came up lame, unfortunately, and that's so unfortunate that's been the story for Grigor Dimitrov, is that something always pops up, and you could tell even the way he was looking at his camp, he was like, this again, like I'm giving myself all these opportunities to get here, And then this stuff keeps happening. And it was just very disappointing for him that he couldn't finish out that match against Tiafoe. But I'm going to tell you what, the way that Tiafoe was playing, I don't think that he would have won it regardless.
It mattered either way.
Yeah, Tiafoe came into that match ready. He was like, listen, you're going to have to do something real special to get past me. And he played great ball, man. So he would have won that match. What surprised me, though, honestly, was how Fritz took out Zverev. He was like, listen, I got big game like you got. And guess what? My forehand is better than yours. So that's what we're going to work on. And I was just surprised at the fact that, they were going, Zverev has one of the best backhands pretty much in the game. And Taylor was going straight up with him. He was like, anybody scared of your backhand? And he was just backhand, and he would not back down. And we, like I said, we know his forehand is better than Zverev's forehand. And so when it went to the forehand side, it was, pretty straightforward. They both have big serves. So I like I said, I just expected Zverev to get through just because of the fact that he's been there before, been further in Grand Slams. But Taylor Fritz was having none of it. He was like, anybody scared of you?
I remember reading the post-match interview there, and Zverev was talking specifically about his backhand. He was just like, that's the shot I can wake up at 3:00 in the morning and hit perfectly. And he said, I have never hit my backhand in my entire career that badly. He was like, he said, that's my shot. Yeah. And I was confused, like, what's going on here? You know? Well, and then you have to give Fritz some credit, but
I was going to say,
but it sounded like he was very disappointed and because he was like, just rally balls I'm missing,
He did. There were a couple of times where you saw a mistake and you were like, ooh, like that's typically your forehand that does that. But again, I think it was the fact that, again, he used to being able to break opponents down on that backhand side, and he was just simply not able to do that with Taylor. I was shocked at how well Taylor's backhand, stood up against Zverev's. And I don't, because it's a lot of different things, different spins, different heights, and I think that I think his backhand just comes into Taylor's pocket real nice, and he's just able to deal with it. So I think that a lot of it was the fact that, again, he was expecting to get some level of errors or something on the backhand side, and he wasn't getting it. And I think that ended up kind of messing with him, because he's like you said, I can wake up at 3:00 in the morning and hit perfect backhands. If I can't get this dude on the backhand side, I know I can't get him on the forehand side. And that's where it ended up going. So kudos to Taylor, man. I was really, really impressed with the fact that he got through that match to make that first semi.
Now, I'm going to need you to talk us through this Fritz Tiafoe semifinal, because unfortunately I was traveling and I didn't get an opportunity to see the match, but I heard it was an amazing match.
It was spectacular, Bryce, and I'm just sorry. I'm sorry for you that you were not able to see that match, because it was worthy. I don't even know what ticket prices were or what have you, but it was worth it because they played. And I'm gonna tell you what, initially going into it, I was just like, well, Fritz got this big lead, and so it might be a little tight on Tiafoe, even though I did actually vote for Tiafoe to win that match. And honestly, Tiafoe shocked me. He played some of the best tennis I have seen from him. Those first three plus sets. He played well, Bryce. He played very, very well. I literally thought, I was like, he's up 2-1. I was like, he's going to take this match. And I think what ended up happening is, as they got into the fourth set, and he even said this or mouthed this to his box, he was like, my body's tightening up. So I don't know that he was getting cramps, but I do know that there was something happening physically that wasn't allowing him to play the way he played those first 3 sets. And unfortunately, it happened at a bad time, because it was late in the fourth set. And I think when Fritz got the break of serve and then served out that fourth set, at that point, Tiafoe was done. He had nothing for a fifth set. And I shouldn't say nothing. He just didn't have the consistency, because Taylor's game is big, but it's consistent. And that's what he displayed in that fifth set. He just was playing consistent tennis, and Tiafoe was making a bunch of errors because his body was tightening up. But those first 3.5 sets, Bryce, it was spectacular. The crowd was going bonkers. I was on my couch going bonkers. I was like, this is a match. These boys are playing for this final. And it, I just commend them both for playing, living up to the expectations, living up to the hype of that semifinal. They did. They really and truly did that. It wasn't like it was just this, blow it off match. It was a great match.
And I'm hoping that this will help propel them to even bigger results later this year. Yeah. But, that match completes, and then we have Fritz in the finals.
Yes.
Against Jannik Sinner. And how did that go?
Yeah, it was one of those things where, I think Taylor came out trying to play, his big brand of tennis. But again, with Jannik Sinner, Jannik just has so much power. And he broke Taylor the first game, and then Taylor broke him back the second game. And you could tell they were just a little nervous, trying to, get themselves settled. Because again, talk about a star-packed, final. I mean, they had some of everybody in the house. I mean, when you got Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce up in the house, you're doing something. So, they came out a little bit nervous, but they settled in. And it was just, I think that Sinner just played the bigger points better. Because, Taylor, big serve, big forehand. He was holding his serve, but then there were just times where, again, Jannik just showed why he's the number one player in the world. And he played great tennis and was able to break Taylor at the right time, was able to step up at the right time and get the right breaks in order to make it a straight sets occasion. So the final, in my opinion, didn't live up to the semifinal that Taylor played against Tiafoe. But at the same time, it's his first, Grand Slam final. It's the U.S. Open. The crowd was trying to get him there, trying to get him hyped. And they did in certain instances. But, at the same time, Jannik Sinner. He's just ice cold, man. He's like, I know when I need to turn up my game. And that's what he did in the critical times and was able to take the match. So it was a good match, not a great match. But, Jannik got over the finish line.
And he now kind of removed himself out of that one slam wonder category, even though we never expected for him to stay there.
Right.
We know he's already qualified for Hall of Fame. And, he has solidified his spot at number one. And honestly, I don't think, I expect for him to end the year number one.
Yeah, I think so as well. And what's interesting, actually, is that Carlos isn't even number two. I think he's number three, and he owns the other two Grand Slams because of the fact that he didn't play at the beginning of the
Australian.
Year. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, is Medvedev number two?
No, Zverev.
Oh, it's Zverev. That's right. Zverev is number two. So I was just kind of like, I saw the rankings. I was like, what? But then I was like, I guess that kind of makes sense. But like you said, I think everybody knows those are the number 1 and 2 players out there.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no question on that. It'll be interesting, though, to see how things end up for the rest of the season, because the year in championships, if it is one, and if Carlos remains at number 3, he may end up being in the same group as Jannik, which I don't think either one of them want that.
No, and the funny thing for me is when I was looking at those rankings, we're seeing Djokovic at number 9.
Right, but the thing is, and this is the thing, Bryce, I don't think Djokovic. I don't think we're going to see much of him for the rest of the season. If I'm
I don't think so either.
With you. Yeah, I think he's probably just going to take the rest of the year. He did what he wanted to do in 2024, and that's win the gold medal. That to me was his thing. I think what he is going to do is try and get himself right, get his fitness right, get everything right for him to make a run for the Australian, because that's his tournament. Right. He's won 10 of them. He wants to win another Australian, get off that 24 with Margaret Court so he can be standalone at 25. I really feel like, because year in championships and all that stuff don't matter to him. So he's not going to be playing for any of that. He wants to get another Grand Slam. So like you're thinking, I don't think we're going to see much of Djokovic for the rest of the season.
And I'm gonna tell y'all, and this is what I said over a year ago. I think it's going to be tough for Djokovic at the Grand Slams now.
I do. I agree.
Because it's not just the Alcarazes and Sinners that feel like they can get up on him now.
Right.
Right. There's a number of people, that we're seeing getting a turn. And I think because so much of this has to do with just self-belief and confidence.
Right.
There's so many times I'm sure people go out there on a court with Djokovic and they're going to try their best, but they don't really believe they're going to win.
Right.
These young guys out here think they can win, and they trying to notch some victories over one of the GOATs before they get out the game. So
exactly.
So I'm not saying he won't win any more majors ever, but look, I think if he does, it's going to be just
it's going to be difficult. It's good. Yeah. It's really going to be difficult for him to get. Like I said, that's why for me, the Australian is going to be pivotal for him, because I don't know. It would be hard for me to see him. Well, like I said, Djokovic is good on all surfaces, but it just depends. I mean, you've got the French, you've got Wimbledon. But again, if you have a healthy Carlos Alcaraz, I don't know that I see him being able to lift those titles. And again, you've got Jannik now, who has proven himself to be the hard court guy, and Medvedev is still hanging around. So it's like Djokovic is going to have to get through. He's going to have to hope for a very, very nice draw at the Australian, whereas he only can meet like potentially one of them. And if that's the case, I think he'll be okay. But if he has to go through both Carlos and Sinner, I just don't know that I see him getting it done anymore.
And if he got to keep his good eye out for people like Poprin and Lajovic and all these other folks.
Exactly. Ready to get their swing on.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. So look, shout out to Jannik Sinner for snagging the 2024 US Open. He just continues to have a great year. And we have something great for the listeners and the viewers, because a few days before the US Open started, we got an opportunity to have Michael Russell, Taylor Fritz's coach, come on the show. We haven't posted it yet, but we will post that next week for you. So right off the heels of Taylor making his, maiden Grand Slam final, we get a chance to share the interview that we had with his coach. So I can't even remember what we talked about now. So it's interesting to see how much we talked about Taylor's chances at this year's US Open.
Yeah, no, it was a really great conversation, folks, and you are definitely in for a great interview. Mike Russell is a quality individual. So
yes, he is.
Look out for that.
I tell you what, I think I like more of the coaches than I like the players.
I'm kind of with you on
quietly.
There's a lot of coaches I like out there. Coaches are boys.
I had the players. Give me the coaches. But anyway, well, Isaac, is there any kind of final wrap up words you have before we get out of here?
No, man, just another good Grand Slam tournament. Again, last of 2024. We've definitely still got a lot of things to cover for the rest of the year, but it's been a good year. 2024 was a good year for the slams, and again, kudos to we'll say both Sabalenka and Sinner for winning 2 Grand Slams in the year. Both of them won the Australian Open and they won the US Open. So kudos to those two for stepping up and showing out and getting 2 Grand Slams in 1 year. Awesome.
Absolutely. And I think the next event that I'm excited for is, of course, the Laver Cup. We don't know what that's going to look like, but we know it's going to be good. I made sure that your boy is doing no traveling during that time, and I'm so glad it'll be covered on the tennis channel. Just need to make sure they don't get into a scrap with DirecTV.
I know, right?
Well, yeah, keep your eye out for this kind of stuff these days. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll be back with you soon. So on behalf of the podcast, this has been your boy Bryce.
And this is your boy Isaac.
And we are Brothers on Tennis. Everyone, stay well.